Okay, welcome back to our biology class. See, here we are going to study about light and photosynthesis. Right? We are studying about the factors of photosynthesis. In the last class, we studied about water and photosynthesis. Second one, carbon dioxide and photosynthesis, or air and photosynthesis. Then now we are going to study about light and photosynthesis. Okay, right? During the Priestley's time, they were not known about the sunlight energy or energy which is involved in the formation of carbohydrates. Sunlight energy they were unknown. Sunlight energy గురించి వాళ్ళకి తెలియదు. ఫోటోసింథసిస్లో కార్బోహైడ్రేట్స్ తయారవ్వాలన్నా, ఆక్సిజన్ ఫామ్ కావాలన్నా ఇక్కడ సన్లైట్ ఎనర్జీ యూటిలైజ్ అవుతుంది అనే విషయం అప్పటికి ఇంకా తెలియదు డ్యూరింగ్ ద ప్రిస్లీస్ టైమ్. సో దట్ డ్యూరింగ్ ద ప్రిస్లీస్ టైమ్ దే వర్ unknown about the energy which is involved in process of photosynthesis or to form the carbohydrates or to release the oxygen from the plants. So they were thinking that when the oxygen is added with carbon, that forms as carbon dioxide, whereas when oxygen is added with hydrogen, that forms as water. So when oxygen is combines with the carbon, that forms as carbon dioxide. When oxygen is added with combines with the hydrogen, that forms as water. So when carbon dioxide and water forms, here there is releasing energy. Suppose if this reaction is reversed, suppose oxygen when it is associated with the carbon dioxide is formed. When oxygen associated with the hydrogen, water is formed. But to release the oxygen from plants, very important, to release the oxygen, to release oxygen from plants need some energy. Even to release the oxygen from the plant, generally oxygen is released from the plants, we know that, but to release the oxygen from the plants, even plants need energy. So where does this energy comes from? So where does this energy comes from? So we know that when carbon dioxide and water forms, when carbon dioxide and water associated here during the photosynthesis process, carbohydrates, and at the end of the photosynthesis oxygen is released. So here this reaction is we are reversing. When carbon associated with oxygen, carbon dioxide, when oxygen associated with hydrogen, water forms. When carbon dioxide and water forms, there is producing energy. Suppose if this reaction is reversed, like carbon dioxide and water when associated, here carbohydrates are formed. At the end of this process, here oxygen is produced. Even to release oxygen, even for the releasing of oxygen, plants they need some energy. So where does this energy comes from? This energy comes from sunlight. Especially here we can understand this energy comes from the sunlight. This is discovered by John Ingenhouse. So John Ingenhouse, he discovered, okay, where does the energy comes from? Where does the energy comes from to form oxygen from the plants? For this answer, okay, here John Ingenhouse discovered the answer. What he did, just simply he took some hydrilla plants in a beaker of water. See here, in a beaker of water he took some hydrilla plants. When these hydrilla plants are kept in a beaker of water in the presence of sunlight, what happens? Some air bubbles are produced. But the same beaker when it is kept in the dark room with hydrilla plants and water, when hydrilla plants with some water, this beaker when it is kept in the dark room, no air bubbles are produced. That shows about these air bubbles are nothing but oxygen gas. This oxygen gas is evolved when the hydrilla plants are exposed with the water in the presence of sunlight. But the same apparatus when it is kept in the sunlight, dark room, the same apparatus when it is kept in the dark room, that means beaker with some water and hydrilla plants, no air bubbles are produced. With this we can understand here oxygen gas is not evolving. That means no energy is utilized here, but here energy is utilized. Even to release the oxygen from the plants, here sunlight energy is utilized. By utilizing the sunlight energy, hydrilla plants are producing oxygen or some air bubbles. That air bubbles are nothing but oxygen. Here same thing what happens when the beaker of water with hydrilla plants kept in the sunlight, dark room. When hydrilla plants with water kept in the dark room, no air bubbles produced, so that sunlight energy is not utilized. And in the absence of sunlight energy, no air bubbles are produced or no gas is liberated. But in the presence of sunlight energy, oxygen or gas is liberated. So with this we can understand light energy or sunlight energy is utilized in the process of photosynthesis. So this is discovered by John Ingenhousz. And one more important thing, in the year, this was done in the 1779. This John Ingenhousz, this experiment was done in the 1779. And in the early ages of 20th century, next in the early ages of 20th century, one more scientist, he conducted some experiments on light and photosynthesis. He practically detected the maximum rate of photosynthesis in plants. He practically proved, he practically detected, that is maximum rate of photosynthesis which occurs in particular light. So that is what this done by Engelmann, one scientist in the 20th century, Engelmann. He conducted some experiments. So he took one algae, he took one algae, strand of algae. Its name is Cladophora. It is not there in the textbook, but it is Cladophora, one type of algae. So this Cladophora algae, when it is exposed to the different lights, light, suppose example, this our light is visible light. The light which comes onto the earth is visible light. This visible light wavelength is 400 to 700 nanometers. Our visible light which comes onto the earth, that visible light is 400 to 700 nanometers. So this visible light is in 7 colors, that is VIBGR. So 7 colors: V for violet, I for indigo, B for blue, G for green, Y for yellow, O for orange, R for red. So like this, the visible light which comes onto the earth, it will be 400 to 700 nanometers, then which consists of 7 colors of light. In these 7 colors of light, when he exposed red colored light and blue colored light onto this algae, ఈ 7 colors of light లో red color light and blue color light, suppose this is one Cladophora algae. Just imagine, assume that it is a Cladophora algae. Onto this Cladophora algae, he exposed the red color light and blue color light. ఏం చేసిందంట, రెడ్ కలర్ లైట్ అండ్ బ్లూ కలర్ లైట్ని పంపించినప్పుడు, in these two conditions, here the oxygen sensitive bacteria are more crowded towards the surroundings of Cladophora. ఈ Cladophora algae చుట్టూ కొన్ని ఆక్సిజన్ సెన్సిటివ్ బ్యాక్టీరియాస్ని పెట్టినప్పుడు ఏమైందంటే, whenever he exposed the red color light, then when the red color light is exposed to the Cladophora bacteria, what happens? Because of red color light, it absorbs more. So rate of photosynthesis is increased. When rate of photosynthesis is increased, more oxygen is produced. When oxygen more produced, then more number of oxygen sensitive bacteria are crowded around the algae. So that we can understand, when oxygen more produced from the Cladophora algae, more oxygen sensitive bacteria were crowded. So with this we can understand, during the red color light, in the presence of red color light, more photosynthesis takes place. Whereas secondly, blue color light, when he exposed the blue color light also, then the to the Cladophora algae, then oxygen sensitive bacteria is crowded. But when compared with the blue color light, red color light increases the more rate of photosynthesis. Then for the second option, we will give the blue color light. So like this, the maximum rate of photosynthesis which occurs at the red colored light, then after blue colored light. So like this, when he exposed the different colors of light onto the cladophora algae, then the oxygen sensitive bacteria were crowded around this algae, so that we can understand the maximum rate of photosynthesis occurs at the red color light and blue color light, but the blue color light is not absorbed by the algae, it is refracted. So with this we can understand this is practically proved by the Engelmann. Okay, this is called maximum rate of photosynthesis which occurs in the presence of sunlight. So that sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis. So here sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis. The sunlight is utilized for the formation of carbohydrate or to form the oxygen. This is about light and photosynthesis.